Do you mask? Autism masking. It's not about faking. It's about survival. Oh my gosh, I can't see this thing. Okay, so do you like Halloween? No, not talking about the movie with Mike Myers. Fun fact, Mike Myers is actually one of our therapists here, and I'm not even kidding! Man, when I saw Mike Myers, he came in to apply. Oh yeah, bring it. Oh my gosh, this is hot. Anyway, Halloween began with the customs of the Celtic-speaking countries. They lit big old bonfires, which is super cool, huh? Am I right? Everybody loves a fire. But what we're most interested in here for the purposes of this video is that they wore face masks and makeup and costumes. And the idea was that it would protect them from bad spirits and ghosts on All Hallows Eve. Woo! I'm not putting that on again, it's too hot. Today, more than a millennia later, the traditions evolved and we're still wearing masks, but more than just on Halloween.
This is an interesting piece, Mr. Ipkiss. Looks like 4th or 5th century Scandinavian. A metaphor, not to be taken literally. You're suffering from a mild delusion.
Yes, we're wearing metaphorical masks, especially as autistic individuals. So what am I talking about? Masking. Whew! Masking, also known as camouflaging or compensating, is to change the way we appear physically and behaviorally. But like anything related to autism, it'll look different for different people. So if you mask, you may do it in an effort to fit in or to conform to the expectations of others, and sometimes to avoid drawing attention to yourself. Sometimes masking can be used to conceal a negative emotion like anxiety, irritability, or anger. But masking can also be used to conceal excitement. Man, this is really hot. I'm like dying over here. If you've ever been in trouble for being too excited or too exuberant in front of others, then you know what I'm talking about. So masking, it can include making eye contact, copying the gestures of other people or for movies, learning how to make facial expressions that are socially appropriate for the situation, fake smiling, relying on scripted or memorized phrases, having conversation topics already in your head, and of course responses that will not get looks from others like you're a weirdo. Unfortunately, for many people, masking also includes trying to suppress stimming, like white knuckling it through sensory situations that you're hypersensitive to, and even changing the way we think about people and situations. But overall, masking is really about survival. It's about social survival, emotional survival, even physical survival. So, if you've ever watched any of my videos, you know that just telling you what something is never good enough for me. So, let's get into the deeper stuff, like the really good stuff about masking. Quick history, less than 20 seconds. And timing, go. Even though the concept of masking is ancient, the term masking is only about 50 years old and is thought to be first introduced by Paul Ekman and Wallace Friesen to describe the act of concealing disgust. Did you hear that? It's a label that describes people who are trying to hide their disgust. Wow. And time. See, under 20 seconds. So Hull and colleagues posited the idea that there are 3 stages to masking: motivation, masking, and consequences. The first stage, motivation, is described as recognizing when it might be important to appear more neurotypical, more normal. This is what normal looks like, right? Right. It could include trying to make a certain first impression on a date or in a social situation. Hey, have you ever been with someone or a group and you get that feeling that if you behave without the mask, you might not be safe? So if you've had to act a certain way while trying to figure out what in the hell's going on around me, you might be masking. You might be motivated to mask to keep a job. Or one friend of mine told me that he had to mask at work for a long time because he really wanted a certain job and the promotions that could come with it, but he felt that he would be passed over for opportunities if he didn't appear more like the rest of them. So he heavily masked, and guess what? It took a toll on him. The second stage of masking is masking, which might include matching other people's behaviors or their tone of voice, or looking relaxed when they look relaxed. Calm, cool, and collected on the outside, but inside, And they might watch others closely to quickly learn what is and is not acceptable behavior in that situation. But we'll get into more masking later. The third stage, the consequences. I've had far too many consequences as a result of my masking behavior, especially as a teen where I watched carefully the behavior of others and I tried to imitate them in my own way. But in true ADHD fashion, sometimes I went a little too far, and sometimes other people got upset or said they were disappointed in some way with me, or they just didn't say anything at all and just didn't want to be around me as much. I know, it sucks. Anyway, that's enough of that. From birth, we start to learn to mask. As infants, we find out pretty quickly that certain things we do get us what we want. Cooing, crying, making faces. Adults react to these things. And when we want something, we do a behavior to get it. Even if we don't know why that behavior gets us that thing. It just does. You fart as an infant, everybody freaking laughs. They think it's hilarious. But fart as a 30-year-old, and you clear a room, and apparently people think that's disgusting. So, two different reactions to the same behavior. Wacky, I know. So as a child, we learn how to dress, how to do our hair, and bathe, and even when we don't want to, because not bathing produces a certain reaction from others, or the lack of reaction if we do. What I mean is people typically don't react at all to a person who practices regular good personal hygiene. Basically, nobody pats you on the back for not stinking. But somebody who has not kept up with their hygiene tends to get people's attention, usually undesired attention. Even if they do not outwardly let you know that you stink, they move away from you. So generally speaking, most people choose to bathe, even if they don't want to. So for some, even basic things like bathing and brushing teeth and combing your hair can be a form of masking. Throughout my whole life, I've tried so hard to mask, masking to be the best of the best at what I do, masking to be funny, masking to avoid getting my butt kicked by bullies, masking to earn better grades, to appear to be a manly man, a badass, yet sensitive, and having huge pressures put upon me by society, pressures to make money, but still be a super dad for my family, and be what my wife needs to be, and to be strong, but soft at the same time. I've had to mask to not be seen as weak in a culture that demands I be vulnerable, but then trashes me for it. Even though I was raised by really wonderful parents, and they did a great job raising me, I don't think anybody could have raised me as well as they did. I was taught by a certain social system to mask from an early age, and I lived my life by the ideas and beliefs and standards that I never knew any different from, ones I never actually even chose myself. Worst of all, I didn't have the innate knowledge of how to take care of myself through all of that because it was about selfless sacrifice. I failed. And what happens when a person fails? They're told they're not trying hard enough. They're not pulling themselves up by their bootstraps enough. They're doing it on purpose. They're lazy. They're a bad person. They're stupid, disorganized, disordered, or even worse, they're told they're unworthy. I've felt it, and so many others have too. So listen, this has got to stop. If the society will not support you in your life experiences, then they've made it very clear that we as human beings are not really allowed to make mistakes or to act outside of what they hypocritically want. Then we as neurodivergents have to come together to support each other and love and accept each other. We have to allow each other to drop some of the masks that we wear out of sheer fear, and we have to let our vulnerability show for each other when you feel safe to do that. We neurodivergent people make up a greater population than many nations on this planet, and we have to hold each other up when others are trying to tear us down. This is why in a lot of my videos I call us the neurodivergent nation, because our numbers are great. But now we have to come together to get what we need to be happier. So, do you think you're really good at masking? Honest question. Sometimes we're not as good as we think we are. I used to think I was so good at masking. There are also problems with people thinking that you're acting fake. But are we? Not necessarily. I don't think masking means faking it. It doesn't mean that we're trying to create some complex ruse like it's some part of an intricate master plan of deception. We're not one of Ocean's 11 or 12 or 13 or whatever comes next. When we mask, we're still ourselves, but we're bending our behavior to fit a situation. I mean, each of us, all of us behave differently in different situations. We act differently around our friends out on a Friday night than we do when we're visiting grandma, unless your grandma's a baller, yo. Both versions of our behavior are still you, but we all usually try to act appropriate to the situation. It's the same with autism masking, but on another level. And again, much of it's about survival rather than just trying to impress someone or to have a good time. So don't let anybody tell you that you're being fake when you mask. In fact, you may genuinely be having a great time while masking, but you might find yourself completely exhausted afterward, which can be one of the consequences of masking. There are also health issues that can arise from chronic masking, according to Cassidy and colleagues. Additionally, some forms of masking can even lead to impulsive and dangerous risky behaviors, such as getting into a sexual or financial situation you aren't sure how you got into, or being taken advantage of by friends who get you to do things you would not typically do. And those things can most definitely result in danger. Remember when I said sometimes our masking includes even changing the way we think about people and situations? Even changing the way we think about people and situations. But see, I did say that. Isn't it true that sometimes we have our own expectations that cause us to mask though? Sometimes, sadly, we're not happy with ourselves, and we can even mask to ourselves for ourselves. We might be so caught up in the idea of what we need to do, of what we need to be, of who we need to be, how we need to talk, what kind of house we need to live in, etc. And that's just to live up to our own expectations. We can't always make masking just about everybody else trying to fit in with others, because the expectations of others. We've got to manage our own expectations as well. So my question now again is, do you mask? How do you mask? Do you know when you're masking? Does it actually help, or does it cause problems for you? I usually like to blend in and hide in public. I prefer sunglasses because of light sensitivity and because I feel like I can blend into the background with glasses. Now, I wasn't always like this because autism looks different throughout the life phases. But sometimes it's so uncomfortable for me, physically and mentally exhausting, to put on a smile. So often I have what's called flat affect. There's no real facial expression. What I'm doing here on video, it's a form of masking. It's stuff I've learned over years of training. Sometimes my smile is real and authentic, and sometimes I'm just masking. I don't think I'm very good at the masking though, after I really consider it. Sometimes I notice over the past few years now when people give me that look, you might know what I'm talking about. They just give me a look and I'm like, oh geez, I'm not masking very well. So I'm not sure how often it happens, and I usually don't catch it, I don't think, but whatever, not my problem. Anyway, what do you do? Do you wear glasses? Do you wear headphones to mask? Do you use outward expressions on your face that don't match what's going on inside? Do you actually wear a face covering, the cloth one, when you don't need to? These are just a few examples. Of course, as I mentioned, neurotypical people mask too, not just neurodivergents. We don't have like a monopoly on this. But for many neurotypical people, and this can also apply to neurodivergents, of course, masking might look like spending more than they can afford to make themselves look more like successful than they are, or to flaunt what they have because they want others to think a certain way about them. They might feel safer if they feel like they can portray themselves as powerful, or angry, or mean, or meek and shy. They may act less intelligent than others to not stand out, and they may act more intelligent than others. They might act scared and insecure because in the past that's gotten them somewhere or something. People name drop because they might feel insecure. I've been known to do that from time to time too. Mike Myers, just kidding. They might act like everything is fine at home when in fact their relationships are in bad shape. They may use their power or their authority over others to bully others because they're really afraid. They may make jokes or pull pranks to make others think they're lighthearted. These are things most everyone does to one degree or another. But I believe the largest difference between neurotypical masking and autistic masking is that the autistic masking has a much greater risk of negative effects, and I believe it may also be less controlled. Also, for both, it can be exhausting, but for many autistic people, they do it on a daily basis. Most of the time they're around others, they're masking. So talk about exhausting. You're always on. Jazz hands. Unfortunately, see, that's a real smile. And unfortunately, autism is not well understood by the general public, as you probably have already figured out. And sometimes autistic people mask to conceal their autism. Why? Because they learn that when they don't mask, they end up getting hurt in one way or another. Masking might actually help someone avoid being bullied or harassed or something else that targets autistic people and causes pain and suffering. It could keep you from losing your job, so there is a benefit to masking sometimes. But one of the most serious effects of masking, in my opinion, is the risk of feeling like you're a fraud, like you're betraying who you really are, or maybe don't even know who you really are. When we act one way, but we think another, we create what's called cognitive dissonance. Might be something to look up. Along these lines, if you're late discovered or late diagnosed as autistic, either professionally diagnosed or self-diagnosed, which, by the way, I believe are both valid, this means you've gone your entire life basically trying to hide your traits, not getting the help that you need or the support and the understanding that you actually have deserved all these years. And I'm truly sorry about that. And of course, that doesn't apply to everybody. This is just a lot of people I speak with. Masking is actually correlated with increased stress and anxiety and exhaustion levels compared to those who don't mask as often. And that's according to a 2016 and a 2019 study. When someone is constantly under pressure and stress and anxiety, guess what often comes with it? Depression. Another study found that more masking was correlated with more depression and feeling unaccepted by their peer. And then, of course, there is autistic burnout. And if you haven't already watched my video on that, check that out because I cover that. Anyway, burnout can be a thing with constant masking too. And unfortunately, one study suggested that a lifetime of masking has been correlated with higher rates of suicidal ideation in a group of students. While this is just one group, it's worth taking note of and definitely has to be taken seriously. So earlier I mentioned some benefits to masking. So can masking be good? Is it necessary? Why do we mask if it hurts us so much? Well, because many of us have built a life around masking, and part of that masking has done us well. I've learned how to be very personable to people, and I genuinely am, but it's not necessarily natural for me. I know that might seem weird, but if you're like me, you'll know what I'm talking about. Don't get me wrong, I genuinely do like a lot of people and I like being around some people, but being personable for me was a learned behavior out of necessity. Some autistic people succeeded in their professional lives because of masking. Many have entered into a relationship using their masked versions of themselves, and they're afraid that if they unmask, they may not be able to keep their partner or their friendships or their jobs. One person I spoke with said that when she started her new job, she decided the type of person she needed to act like to get ahead in that company, and that actually worked really well for her, professionally speaking. She's been highly successful, whereas she couldn't hold a job for very long before that, and she cited her autism traits as the reason for not being able to hold a job very well. And like I said earlier, it can also help avoid getting called out or bullied in unfortunate situations. But I also believe that the most powerful reason people tend to mask is because masking may help millions of neurodivergent people feel like they actually just belong and fit in. Good or bad, that's just the way it is. And having a sense of belonging is one of the most powerful motivators we actually know of. When do you tend to stop masking as much? When do you feel totally comfortable being yourself? Maybe at home when others aren't around, when you've had enough of the day and you're exhausted and just can't mask anymore? When we become frustrated, when we become elated? Allow me to paint a picture of a world where you don't have to mask as much. I envision a world where you feel worthy to be you, because after all, isn't that the main reason we mask? We don't feel okay being ourselves for whatever reason. Ask yourself, who put the idea in your head that you can't be you? What's the source? Is it a trusted person or someone who shouldn't be putting ideas in your head? If we can feel like we're unconditionally okay to be who we are, like our present existence actually matters, and we have a right to be here, saying what we say, doing what we do, stims and all, maybe we can drop the masks bit by bit. We've been cut down over a lifetime, and parts of us have been cut out in an effort to live up to the expectations of others in the world, and I hope that begins to end now to some degree. There's no rule that says you have to keep masking for others. You don't have to participate in that anymore like you have been, as scary and hard as that might be. Except, again, like I say, some masking you may want to hang on to. Give yourself love, compassion, and permission, but understand you probably just can't stop masking all at once, and some masking you may want to keep, like I said. Like everything, it's a process, and everyone is different. Here are a few things that I feel might be good to consider. Again, this is not therapy or advice, but just some of my own ideas and how I might drop my own masking that's not beneficial to me. First, I think back to my childhood and I write down the ways in which I masked as a child. When did I first notice myself masking, and what was the circumstance? Why? This exercise helps me bring perspective to my life and how I understand my own history. It can help me be more compassionate for my child self, and it can foster self-forgiveness and acceptance. Number 2, I may ask a trusted friend to help me be myself in certain ways, maybe in ways that I was hesitant to be myself around them. I can explain what masking is and give a specific example of something I've found myself doing in their presence and why I want to stop that behavior and be more myself. This might be a little tricky, and it's not an opportunity for shaming from the other person, or self for that matter, but rather an opportunity to see if they're supportive in a change and to get that support from them. All right, number 3, I would find a therapist to help me through this process. It's vital that we find therapists that get autism, like really get it, not just what they learned in school and from a few online resources, but somebody who really gets it. Maybe you can find an autistic therapist. There are a lot out there. And if not, you know what? A lot of therapists, they got to start somewhere so you can help teach them what autism really looks like. So that would be an amazing opportunity. Number 4, celebrate being you. Oscar Wilde wrote, "Be yourself, everyone else is already taken." Everyone is different, everyone, but you may be especially different, and that's great. The way you communicate is okay, whether it's by an electronic device or your vocal cords or signing or self-expression. All of it has a role in our world, and it's an important role. You may have ideas and interests and behaviors that are incredible, even if nobody else really sees them. And that's okay. It's all part of a giant interconnectedness where nothing goes on without having an effect on everything else. Make a list of the way you do things that are good, that are interesting, and ask someone else the same question about you. But make them dig deep. Don't settle with, well, you're a kind person, and you have a really good heart, and you're good at piano, and you make me sandwiches. Like, don't let people give you those answers. So here's an, hang on. Here's a, hang on. I will be portraying the part of your friend or spouse or partner or loved one.
All right. Here's your motivation. Nobody likes you. Now forget that part. We'll improvise. Just keep it kind of loosey-goosey. Action!
When I'm with you, I feel at peace. You're important to me because I feel like I can trust you and that you genuinely care about me as well. I've seen how you light up when we come around the bend in a trail and there's like this magnificent waterfall is right in front of us. And I've seen how you light up when we have blown bubbles together, just simple stuff like that. I know I can be myself around you, and I thank you for being such a wonderful human being.
Brilliant! Cut, print, check the gate, moving on.
By the way, I'm not faking right now. I'm actually thinking of somebody when I say this, so that was authentic. But this type of recognition has nothing to do with talents or how much money you make or mistakes or other limitations. This is much deeper. All right, number 5, find your people. I think I say this in almost every video. It's important that you find others whom you can find camaraderie with, others who've been through some of the things that you've been through. There are actually online groups, and sometimes you might be able to find a support group in person, maybe, if you want to go to one. For autistic individuals. I love the saying, birds of a feather flock together, meaning neurodivergent people tend to attract other neurodivergent people. It's like magnetism, so your friends are already likely neurodivergent as well. All right, number 6, finally, keep writing. Write down the ways in which you've discovered that you mask and why you do it, and if it serves a purpose, and if you need to continue to do it in those circumstances. You can't deal with what you can't identify. So try as hard as you can to be aware of your own masking. So at the end of this video, I would just like you to please subscribe. No, I'm dead serious. Like, seriously, try to subscribe to this if you haven't already done it. I feel like Mr. Rogers right now. It's a beautiful day to be neurodivergent. It's a beautiful day. I can't determine if I sound like Mr. Rogers or that guy that rolls his booger on the Buick commercials. I don't know which one it is. Anyway, you guys have a great Halloween, and this is the Neurodivergent Doctor, and I hope this helps you in your neurodiverse universe. Ooh, you can't even like see out of this. Look at this. This is the eye hole, and then the other one. What am I? Like 2 eyes on? I look like I'm pug or something. Kind of see.